Growth mindset. The first question we need to ask is, what is a mindset? Well, our mindset is made up of our beliefs, ideas, and attitudes. So our mindset will determine how we will act, especially when we are being challenged. A fixed mindset assumes that our character, our intelligence, and creative ability are static givens. In other words, we are born in a certain way. We were given certain talents and we are intelligent up to a certain point. And as human beings, we cannot develop any further. So what we've been given are what we have to accept. And that is our limit. We cannot exceed that limit. In a growth mindset, people believe that their most basic abilities can, however, be developed through dedication and hard work. Brains and talent are just the starting point. And this view creates a love of learning and a resilience that is essential for great accomplishments. Relationship and presence impacts the way a baby feels, learns, and grows. When we are born, we do not have a sense of self. This is developed over time. And we realize either that we are important when we cry, somebody reacts, or we are not important and loved when we cry, we are being ignored. Little children are mostly taught that they are the best. Little girls are mommy and daddy's little princess. She's the most beautiful in the whole wide world. And little boys are mommy and daddy's strong man, and he's the fastest. However, as they develop and come into contact with other toddlers and children, they realize that as they compare themselves, that they are not the fastest or they are not the most beautiful. And this ends up in usually a lot of crying. Why? Because of a realization that I always thought I was the best, but now I start comparing myself. And when we start to learn that we have flaws and we have faults, some of us tend to get stuck there. And we start to believe what we are told when we are told negative things. And then we start looking at the world through that lens. We do not see things as they are. We see things as we are. If we have a positive self-esteem and we believe we have worth, then what we see in the world will be more positive. However, if we believe that we are dumb, nasty, weak, dishonest, a victim, and unloved, this is the way we will see the world around us. We will either have a victim mentality and be stressed and depressed and live with a sense of defeatism, or we will develop defense mechanisms to try and hide our real feelings like false bravado or aggression or acting out. So many people say, but that's just the way I am. And of course, when we get the response that we know, that just emphasizes what we already think about ourselves. So many people with red hair will say, oh, well, I've got red hair, so I get angry quickly. There's nothing I can do about it. That's just the way I am. Or, yes, I am not a very positive person, but you know what? That's just the way I am. No, it is not. Neuroscientists have found that the brain can actually change. Not just our thought patterns, but the physical makeup of the brain can change. and they call it neuroplasticity. A neuroscientist called Caroline Leaf has found that she could even help people with Alzheimer's to improve their memory once again. And she has worked with people who had brain damage. Because you can start forming new pathways in the brain, you can actually alter the physical makeup of a brain and improve memory. In her book, Switch on Your Brain, Dr. Caroline Leaf explains neuroplasticity as follows. She says, the brain is malleable like plastic and can be changed moment by moment by how we direct our thinking. And then she published a picture and she tried to show, this is of course not an actual image of a brain, but she tried to show in layman's terms what toxic memories or negative thoughts can do to the brain as opposed to healthy memories. So why is a growth mindset important? Well, first of all, because a growth mindset is a healthy way of thinking and it has a positive effect on the physical makeup of our brain. But secondly, because toxic thoughts eventually lead to toxic feelings. If I think I am worth nothing, I can't do anything right, I'm stupid, I might start feeling depressed and deflated. And that might lead to toxic actions. Either I just give up or I try to hide my feelings by shouting, screaming, acting out, becoming angry because I don't want people to know what I really feel inside. And this, of course, will lead to toxic reactions. People will not react positively towards you. And what does that do? It tells me that my toxic thoughts were actually right. For instance, somebody who is shy and they don't want to speak to others. Eventually, they might feel neglected or rejected. And then they might stand back and not try to speak to other people and might not try and socialize. And the people might think, oh, see, that person is really a snob. We don't want anything to do with that person. And that toxic reaction tells the person, see, I am right. Nobody likes me. The following story emphasizes the point that I've just made. It's entitled Murphy's Plow. McGinty, a farmer, needed to plow his field before the dry spell set in, but his own plow had broken. I know. I'll ask my neighbor, Farmer Murphy, to borrow his plow. He's a good man. I'm sure he'll have done his plowing by now, and he'll be glad to lend me his machine. So McGinty began to walk the 3 or 4 fields to Murphy's farm. After a field of walking, McGinty says to himself, I hope that Murphy has finished all his own plowing, or he'll not be able to lend me his machine. Then, after a few more minutes of worrying and walking, McGinty says to himself, and what if Murphy's plow is old and on its last legs? He'll never be wanting to lend it to me, will he? And after another field, McGinty says, Murphy was never a very helpful fellow. I reckon maybe he won't be too keen to lend me his plow, even if it's in perfect working order and he's finished all his own plowing weeks ago. As McGinty arrives at Murphy's farm, McGinty is thinking, I reckon even if he's got all his plowing done and his own machine is sitting there doing nothing, he'll not lend it to me. McGinty walked up Murphy's front path, knocks on the door, and Murphy answers. Well, good morning, Mr. McGinty. What can I do for you? Said Murphy. And McGinty says with eyes bulging, you can take your stupid plow and you can keep it. As we see in this previous story that I've just shared with you, we can become so irrational. We can think things that are not even real and start believing them. So we need to be honest with ourselves and listen to what we've been saying about ourselves. I've heard so many people say things such as, stop being stupid, or stop being such an idiot, or I can't take this anymore. I'm going to go nuts. You're going to make me crazy. All these things that we are saying to ourselves are called negative self-talk. And we eventually start believing ourselves. And that's a dangerous place to be because, as we just said, there's this negative downward spiral where we think negative things, we start feeling negative emotions, and then we start acting negatively. By now, I'm sure you're asking, okay, so how do I develop a growth mindset? Well, I guess the logical answer would be to just stop thinking toxic thoughts, like a mind diet. The problem is, I've been on quite a few diets. I don't know about you, but when I'm on a diet, the only thing I can think of all day long is food and how hungry I am. So instead of actually combating the eating, I just want to eat more. And eventually my self-discipline gives way and I just start stuffing it in because I've been craving all these foods because I've been trying to deprive myself of it. So I would say a better method would be rather to replace the thoughts with something else instead of just trying to stop thinking the toxic thoughts. Stop thinking toxic thoughts like, if I say to you, stop thinking about a big black dog. Come on, stop thinking about a big black dog. Do not think about a big black dog. What were you just thinking about? That proves my point. So instead of thinking and saying that I must stop thinking toxic thoughts, just look at this container. All right, if I want to get rid of the red liquid, I can pour it out. But the moment I pour it out, there's nothing in, and we don't want to stop thinking altogether. So what do? I start adding clear liquid, in this case white liquid, to the red liquid. And eventually it's diluted. Eventually it overflows. And if I keep adding clear liquid, eventually all the red would have been washed out. Let us look at some growth mindset thoughts that we can use to replace those old toxic thoughts. Instead of saying, I've never done it before, I don't know how to do it, we can rather say, it's a chance to learn something new and I can learn. Or instead of saying it's too complicated or hard and I'll mess it up, I can say that I can figure it out. I've overcome tougher challenges than this before. Or instead of saying other people can do it better, we can rather say, I look for the bright side of things, or I can also do it, or I can learn to do it. Or maybe it is my job, or my privilege, or even my calling to do it. If I want to replace those toxic thoughts with more positive thoughts, that is, if I want to develop a growth mindset, it helps to know where I'm headed. What do I want to accomplish? Which areas do I want to improve in? Proverbs 29 verse 18 says that where there is no vision, the people perish. There's also a saying that says if you aim for nothing, you hit nothing. So we need to have a goal and a plan how to get there, because without a goal or a plan, it remains a wish. and we know how far wishing gets us. There's also a definition of insanity that says that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So if we've been thinking certain things and we've been saying certain things and we've been doing certain things and we're still not at the place where we want to be, maybe it's time to change. So we need to dream big, set goals, and then take action. In other words, live intentionally. Live an intentional life. Don't just wake up and go through the motions. Don't just breathe. Yes, there are times when we just relax and we just take a breather. But we need to know where we're heading. We need to make intentional decisions. And then we need to stick with it. We also learn in Proverbs 18:23 that death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits. So we need to start speaking life. And in order to do that, we need to also think life. Of course, we can expect some challenges along the way. Now, here are some important things to keep in mind as we develop a growth mindset. One, we need to take care of ourselves. It is not wrong to do things that you like from time to time. We also have to practice being resilient. I used to run away from problems, and I found that I've not learned to work through problems. Now, that is what one calls being resilient. And so I've decided that the next time I encounter a problem, I will not run away. It's a decision that I've made. And that brings me to point number 3. Recognize that you can choose how you act. And you need to calm yourself. We need to start with a single step. I'm not going to try and change all the things that I've been thinking, but one thought at a time. And I have to let go of my anger, because we tend to get angry so easily. And instead of focusing on loss, consider what you may gain. Instead of thinking, oh, what if I make a mistake and I mess up? No, let's consider the experience that you might gain through what you've just gone through. And then draw strength from others. Remember, you are not walking alone. Now, I've just spoken about being resilient, working through a problem. Now, how do we do that? One, we remain patient. If I ask you to move that big boulder, you will not start pushing the big boulder. We will take it step by step and remove the little stones first. So start with the little things. Now, there's a quote by Abrahams that asks how you eat an elephant. Now, of course, we will not eat an elephant because that's disgusting. But what it says is, if you try to tackle something big, take it one step at a time. Because how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Don't try to do everything at once. Sometimes it is a process, and I have to add, most times it's a process. Be brave. Being brave does not mean that I'm not afraid, because having a growth mindset means that I will take on challenges, because I will know that these challenges will help me to grow. And that means that I need to be brave. Brave does not mean that I'm not afraid. It means that even though I'm afraid, I still try. And then don't give up. Not halfway, because we might be very, very close to succeeding, and then we give up, and we never know what we could have accomplished if we just push through. And you need to remember that you're not alone. So get yourself a mentor, somebody that you know will be able to help you through this. For instance, on a totally different note, I've spoken about diets before. I realized that I cannot go on a diet unless I have help. Somebody to encourage me and to be with me and assist me and to tell me that I can do this. And so many of us will need a mentor, somebody that has already accomplished developing a growth mindset and will help us to do the same. We have spoken a lot about developing a growth mindset on a personal level, but I am sure that you've already figured out how this can be applied within education. In his book, The 7 Laws of a Learner, Bruce Wilkinson tells about an experience he had as a young first-year Bible college lecturer. As he was walking on campus the very first day, he bumped into a colleague who was very excited and very surprised at the same time. He told Bruce that he just found out that Bruce was going to teach the honors class. The honors class comprised of a group of people, young people, who did exceptionally well in their matric exams. And this lecturer was very surprised that Bruce was allowed to teach this honors class, as Bruce was a very young and inexperienced lecturer. So Bruce tells in his book, he says, the next day, section 1 filed in. Now, of course, that's not the honors class. And we had a good hour, nothing outstanding, just a good give and take session with a solid group of young men and women. After break, section 2 walked in. That was the honors class. I couldn't believe it. I could feel the electricity in the air. From the ring of the bell, class just flew by as the teacher and students learned at almost warp speed. He continues to mention that even the assignments looked different. When he looked at the assignments, the honors class assignments were thicker and a lot more went into the assignments than the average class assignments. At the end of the term, the dean of the college came to Bruce and asked him how he was doing. And Bruce couldn't stop talking about the honors class and how exciting it was to teach the honors class. And then the dean said something very interesting. He said, there is no honors class this year. We cancelled it. Now, that was a very good experience for Bruce because he realized that the only real difference between the two classes was his own expectation of the class, his own mindset. I would like to share one of my own experiences as an educator. At the end of the first term, I was writing report comments, and I came to a certain young boy, and I just didn't know what to say. I usually start off with something positive, and I was thinking, I want to say he's friendly, but he's actually quite grumpy. And I want to say that he tries hard, but he likes to give up. And I was just stumped. And then the thought came, why don't I write everything that I would like to see this learner become? And so I wrote quite a nice report comment. Like, good job, well done. Thank you for trying so hard. It's a pleasure to have you in my class, etc. And the next term, I could see a huge change in this boy. And at first, I did not connect this change with the report comment that I wrote. I couldn't understand what had happened until I bumped into the dad at the shopping center. The dad was extremely excited and he couldn't stop talking and he was so glad that I wrote that report comment. He told me it was the first positive report comment that that boy had ever received, and they were all excited and they shared it with the whole family. And I then realized why this boy had changed. Suddenly, he realized that I thought about him in a certain way, and he did not want to disappoint me. So let's take a closer look at the 7 laws of a learner. In this slideshow, I'm just mentioning the first 6. Now, the first law that Bruce Wilkinson mentions in his book is the learner mindset. Now, what is the learner mindset? This mindset asks, how can I cause my learners to learn? In other words, if the learner is struggling, how can I help and assist? Now, in this picture, it says changing your mindset from, now my ELLS is my English language learners, can't speak English. Now, I change from saying my children can't do this, they can't read, they can't, to what can I do? How can I accommodate the learner? How can I adjust my teaching methods and my teaching material in order to accommodate this learner, to enable this learner or them to learn? The next law that Bruce mentions in his book is the expectation mindset. Now, we've already referred to this when we mentioned Bruce's experience as a first-year Bible college lecturer, as well as one of my own experiences. But let's just look at this quote. It says, if you don't go into your day with the attitude of expectation, nothing changes. Expectation is the mindset of greatness. So let's ask this question. Do I expect my learners to learn? Because if I do not expect them to learn, nothing will change. The next law that we find in Bruce Wilkinson's book, The 7 Laws of a Learner, is the application mindset. Now, I was very surprised by this quote. Bruce Lee said, learning is definitely not mere imitation, nor is it the ability to accumulate and regurgitate fixed knowledge. So what is the application mindset? Application mindset asks the question, can my learners apply what they've learned? Or am I just trying to get through the work, finish off what has to be done, focus on the curriculum, and have my children write the test so I can tick off the assessment? The 4th law is the retention mindset. What do we mean by retention mindset? The question we ask here is, will my learners remember what they've learned? How many times has it happened to you that you get a class and you start talking about work that they've already covered in grade 1 and grade 2 and grade 3 and grade 4, and they look at you dumbfounded? And you ask them, have you not learned this before? And they go, no, like they've never even heard of it before. And then you go back to the previous teacher and you ask, did you not cover this last year? And she goes, of course we did. We spent a whole 3 weeks on this. What happened? The learners did not remember what they've learned. It was just a lot of short-term memory that they used to complete a test. And after the test, everything was forgotten. That is not real learning. The 5th law is the need mindset. Now on the slide, you can see the need model. First of all, we need to seize the children's attention. So they need to go, what is this? Then we need to stir their curiosity and create an expectation. So they would say, tell me more. And then we continue until they realize that they want this. And then they need to eventually know that they need the information. So the question that we're asking is, do my learners know why they need to know? Do my learners know why they need to know? Now, I usually use the example of sin, cos, and tan. As a high school student, I was taught sin, cos, and tan in mathematics class, but I was never taught what I was working out or why I was doing it. So I had to learn the, the method off by heart, and like a parrot, I just had to apply it. And it took me a very long time to figure out what sin, cos, and tan was all about. As a matter of fact, I eventually figured it out after I discovered Google. Now, I know Google is a good teacher, but Google should never replace the teacher in the classroom. The sixth law mentioned in Bruce Wilkinson's book, The 7 Laws of a Learner, is the equipping mindset. Now, I really want to read the following quote to you, as I think that it is quite inspiring. It says, engage, educate, equip, encourage, empower, energize, and elevate. Those are the methods for maximizing the potential of any individual, team, organization, or institution for ultimate success and significance. Those are the methods of a mentor leader. And as educators, we are mentor leaders. So the question I'm asking, if I have an equipping mindset, is, are my learners ready for their future life in the real world? Am I actually equipping my learners? Or am I just teaching them facts and knowledge which they may forget because they will never actually use it? If you want to know more about the growth mindset, you can visit the WCED's website. There I found these beautiful posters, as well as a growth mindset booklet, or as they say, implementation manual. There's a pamphlet that I can share with my parents, as well as these bracelets and badges, coloring pages, and stickers. All of these are available in English, Afrikaans, and Xhosa.